Have you ever wondered how some of your favorite food items might not be around forever? In this video, we're exploring 5 food items that are on the verge of disappearing, and trust us, you'll want to know about them before it's too late. From environmental changes to shifting global trends, these foods are facing challenges you won't believe. Stay tuned to find out what they are and why they're at risk. If you enjoy learning about fascinating topics like this, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss out. 1. Meat. Beef, pork, chicken, fish. Meat, a staple on plates around the world, is quietly slipping into the growing list of food items that might not be as accessible in the future. The supply chain for beef, pork, chicken, and fish is riddled with vulnerabilities, leaving it on shaky ground. If you're used to reaching for a steak, roast chicken, or a slab of tuna, brace yourself, this reality won't last forever. Industrial-level meat production is already showing cracks under pressure. High-concentration farming, where massive amounts of animals are raised in confined spaces, has created ideal breeding grounds for disease. Remember avian flu? It wreaks havoc on poultry supply chains whenever it spreads, drastically cutting down the availability of chicken and turkey, sometimes overnight. These diseases spread fast and devastate economies. But the real blow is seen at the consumer level when prices spike or shelves empty. It's not just the idea of fewer birds or cattle, it's full-blown disruptions that ripple through everything from fast food chains to your corner grocery store. Adding to the chaos, processing plants, the critical link between farm and market, are dangerously fragile. We've seen cyber attacks hit major processing companies, shutting everything down for days. Closer to home, staffing shortages have left many plants unable to operate efficiently. It doesn't take much for this precarious system to buckle, leaving gaps in the availability of your favorite meat cuts. And make no mistake, the demand for labor in these roles isn't letting up anytime soon, only amplifying the challenges. The fishing industry is no better. Our oceans are in trouble. Overfishing, rising sea temperatures, pollution, you name it, are crushing marine ecosystems. Combine these factors with occasional global upheavals like pandemics, and fishing fleets can't keep up. Quite frankly, you're looking at a future where fish becomes an expensive indulgence, not an everyday protein alternative. And for those who think aquaculture, farming fish, is the answer, think again. Disease outbreaks in farmed fish populations and ethical discussions complicate the sustainability of that solution. Solutions do exist, but they require people to think completely differently about food. Want to make sure you have fresh, reliable protein sources. Raise your own livestock. Yes, it's a throwback to earlier times, but it's effective if you have the land and resources. Chickens alone can provide both meat and eggs, 2 essentials in one compact, manageable option. Goats can supply meat and milk on a more adaptable scale, thriving even where cattle may not. If backyard farming isn't practical, it's time to reconsider how you buy and store meat. Start purchasing in bulk. Partner with local farmers or cooperatives to buy a half or whole hog or cow. Portion it out and invest in a freezer or even canning equipment. It's not glamorous, but it's practical and often more cost-effective in the long run. You'll know exactly where your meat comes from, and you'll always have a stocked supply when shelves everywhere else run empty. Big picture, people need to broaden their definition of protein. That steak you love isn't the only way to hit your nutritional goals. Plant-based proteins have come a long way. Forget bland tofu cubes. Lentils, quinoa, and soybeans pack a serious protein punch, and bonus points, they're shelf-stable. Wild rice, peas, spinach, and Jerusalem artichokes are other quiet heroes worth incorporating into meal planning. Combine these with traditional proteins in moderation, and you've got a balanced diet that isn't meat-reliant. The bottom line? Meat as we know it is on the chopping block. Don't rely on a wobbly supply chain to keep delivering the goods. It's crumbling faster than you might think. Explore alternatives now, or be ready to pay sky-high prices for premium cuts in the years to come. The world's changing, your plate should, too. 2. Eggs. Eggs are a staple in households worldwide, from breakfast tables to baking recipes, but their availability is increasingly at risk. The combination of an ongoing avian flu outbreak and the resulting decimation of chicken populations has drastically impacted the supply of eggs. With fewer chickens laying eggs, prices are skyrocketing and shelves in stores are noticeably bare. To make things worse, panic buying by consumers has amplified these shortages, creating a vicious cycle where the supply cannot meet the overwhelming demand. If you're dependent on eggs daily, now is the time to face it. Your access to this versatile food may be severely limited soon. Here's the reality. You need to start thinking of solutions now, not when eggs are already impossible to find. One of the most direct approaches is raising your own hens, provided it's practical where you live. Just 2 hens can reliably produce enough eggs to sustain an average family's needs. Sure, it's a commitment, but it's also an insurance policy for food security. If owning hens isn't within reach, options still exist to prepare for a potential egg drought. Preservation methods, such as dehydrating eggs or storing them in powdered form, offer a way to stretch current supplies. Powdered eggs, when properly stored, can last up to 10 years, making them a solid backup plan for the future. The upfront cost of buying and preserving eggs now is far smarter than fighting scarcity and escalating prices later. For those who need eggs more for baking than for scrambling or frying, consider learning to adapt with replacements. Egg substitutes such as applesauce, mashed bananas, flax seeds, chia seeds, or even nut butter can replicate the binding and leavening effects of eggs in recipes. Will they be identical results? Not always. But in turbulent times, these baking hacks can help you survive without relying on traditional eggs. They're also often cheaper and more readily available, at least for now. This isn't just some distant hypothetical issue. The pressures causing egg shortages and price hikes aren't temporary. Avian flu strains continue to linger, and the impact on poultry farms is widespread and long-lasting. Without stronger control measures against the diseases affecting chickens, the egg supply chain will take years to stabilize. Panic buying only worsens the situation in the short term, so before you contribute to the chaos, think about smarter long-term strategies. Don't wait for the situation to spiral further. Start taking steps to secure your egg supply, or prepare for alternatives. When the shelves are empty and prices become untenable, you'll be thankful for the measures you've put in place today. Eggs may not disappear entirely, but they're on course to become a rarity at a premium price. 3. Butter. Butter has become one of the most precarious food items in today's volatile supply chain. The perfect storm of labor and freight shortages is hammering production lines and pushing prices through the roof, seeing a staggering increase of over 40%. It's not just a matter of inflation, it's about the structural frailty of a highly dependent, commercialized production process. What was once a staple in every household is rapidly becoming a luxury item, teetering on the edge of being inaccessible to the average consumer. To make matters worse, butter requires a delicate balance of resources and timing. Dairy farms grapple with labor shortages, trucking companies can't keep up with the demand for transport, and the entire process is slowed at every stage. At the end of all this, what should be an affordable everyday ingredient emerges as an overpriced commodity. Add global economic pressures and climate challenges into the mix, and butter truly becomes a symbol of scarcity in the modern food system. Households can't always keep up with fluctuating prices or the shrinking availability, making this staple vulnerable to disappearing from the shelves altogether in the near future. But does this mean you're destined for a butterless life? Not necessarily. There are ways to take control and future-proof your butter supply in light of these challenges. Enter the world of preservation and adaptation. The methods are nothing revolutionary, but they're the lifelines you'll need if you want butter in the coming years. One practical solution is canning butter, a preservation technique that ensures your butter stays usable for years. It's simple: melt the butter, pour it into heated jars, and seal them tightly. If stored properly, canned butter boasts a shelf life of over 3 years. This method offers a long-term fix to this deepening butter crisis, allowing you to keep using it in your cooking and baking without worrying about outages or skyrocketing costs. It's a proactive approach that anyone can learn with a little effort and the right tools. Alternatively, you can turn to making ghee, a clarified form of butter that is not only delicious but also practical for storage. Renowned for its long shelf life, ghee can last up to 9 to 12 months when kept unrefrigerated. Even better, ghee's utility doesn't stop when it goes rancid. You can still use it for non-food purposes, such as oil lamps or even skin moisturizers. By learning how to prepare your own ghee, you sidestep the dependence on store butter and gain a product that is just as versatile. Beyond extending the availability of butter, ghee adds a distinct nutty flavor that many consider an upgrade in both taste and utility. The bottom line? If you don't adapt, you'll lose out. Butter's shortfall is a glaring wake-up call to rethink traditional habits and develop resilient strategies for the coming shifts in global food systems. Mastering preservation techniques like pressure canning or oven sealing jars isn't just a trendy skill, it might be essential for lasting food security. Start learning these methods now, before it's too late. The butter crisis is not going away anytime soon. The sooner you accept that, the better off you'll be in navigating this vanishing staple. Stock up, start preserving, and be ready to step back from dependency on fragile supply chains. Remember, You're not just saving butter, you're saving a critical part of your pantry's functionality and, arguably, your peace of mind. 4. Flour and wheat products. Flour, a staple in countless households worldwide, is facing serious challenges that threaten its availability. This essential food item, derived primarily from wheat, is under siege due to a series of interconnected global crises. If you rely on flour for cooking and baking, it's time to prepare because this pantry favorite may disappear sooner than you think. The war in Ukraine has significantly disrupted global wheat supplies, as both Ukraine and Russia are major wheat exporters. China has added to the strain by hoarding grains, limiting the amount available on the global market. This isn't just an inconvenient geopolitical problem, it's a direct hit to affordable food access for millions. Add in rising fertilizer costs and worsening environmental challenges, and you're looking at less wheat being produced overall. Without wheat, there's no flour. Without flour, a domino effect could cripple industries that range from bread making to pasta production. On top of the supply threats, climate change isn't making things any easier. Droughts, floods, and unpredictable weather patterns are increasingly destroying crops. Meanwhile, the rising costs of agricultural inputs like fertilizers make it tougher for farmers to sustain wheat production. Fewer farmers can grow wheat, and even those who can are yielding less. Combine all this and what do you get? Flour and wheat products disappearing faster than you realize. But this doesn't mean you're completely out of options, it just means being smart. Start storing wheat berries immediately. Unlike processed flour, wheat berries can last over 30 years if stored properly in a cool, dry environment. With a decent grain mill, you can grind them into flour as needed, ensuring freshness and extending your food security far beyond what a 5-pound sack of flour could provide. If storing wheat berries seems too much, focus on preserving flour itself. Most people don't realize that flour can last up to 10 years when stored the right way. Forget tossing it into your pantry in a paper bag that's a recipe for disaster. Use vacuum sealing, mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, or sturdy food-grade containers to minimize exposure to air, light, and moisture. Just a little effort can significantly prolong a flour stash. You should also think beyond traditional wheat flour. There are plenty of alternative flours that might not taste exactly the same but will still work in most recipes. Options like potato flour, cornmeal, and buckwheat are nutrient-rich substitutes that can fill the void if wheat-based flour becomes scarce. Lesser-known ingredients like acorns, peas, and even zucchini can also be processed into flour. Sure, it might not be what you're used to, but it's better than doing without. The bottom line is clear: flour, as we know it, is at risk. Waiting for governments or corporations to fix this problem is a gamble, and you can't afford to lose this bet. Taking proactive steps now, whether it's learning how to store flour properly or experimenting with unconventional alternatives, could mean the difference between thriving and scrambling when shortages hit. Flour's availability is slipping out of our hands. Ensuring you have it when you need it is your responsibility. Don't wait until it's too late. 5. Fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables are next on the chopping block when it comes to food items facing severe threats. If you've always taken year-round access to your favorite produce for granted, it's time to wake up. The growing reliance on complex supply chains to ensure we get grapes in winter or avocados year-round is a fragile system that's showing cracks. Out-of-season produce doesn't magically appear, it gets shipped from halfway across the globe. And what happens when unstable weather patterns, transportation disruptions, or economic upheaval strike? Prices skyrocket, shelves go empty, and suddenly, that salad you planned isn't so affordable anymore. The increasing unpredictability of weather patterns caused by climate change is a direct threat to crops. Droughts, floods, and extreme temperatures wreak havoc on production cycles and yields, making it harder for farms to keep up with demand. Add inflation and labor shortages into the mix, and the cost of growing and transporting these foods becomes unbearable both for companies and consumers. Fruits and vegetables, no matter how essential, face an uphill battle in the years ahead. This is why you need to take matters into your own hands. You can't just sit back and hope the supply chains patch themselves together while the environment stabilizes. Start by growing your own produce. Even if you're not blessed with a sprawling backyard, there are plenty of ways to make this work. Grow potatoes in bags, set up a few containers of tomatoes and herbs on your balcony, or plant a dwarf apple tree if you happen to have a small yard. Growing your own food is about control. It's knowing that no matter what happens outside, you've got some essentials covered. Preservation techniques are another key to protecting yourself from future scarcity. Learn to extend the shelf life of whatever you grow or buy from local sources. Dehydrating, vacuum sealing, and freeze drying are must-learn skills. Did you know freeze-dried fruits and vegetables can last 25 years or more if stored properly? That's as close to food insurance as you can get. Powdering fruits and vegetables for smoothies or soups is another practical way to prep long-lasting, nutritious options. Use mason jars to store your harvest. They're dependable and versatile for long-term storage. If you're feeling resourceful, and you should be, foraging could be a game changer. Learn to identify edible plants in your local environment. It's a skill that takes time to master but pays off in unexpected ways. Wild berries, dandelion greens, and other naturally occurring foods exist around us and are often overlooked. Start small, research thoroughly, and gradually incorporate foraged items into your diet. Reducing reliance on grocery stores isn't just practical, it's empowering. If you think the status quo will continue indefinitely, you're setting yourself up for failure. Fruits and vegetables may be commonplace today, but the risks to their availability are too significant to ignore. The good news? You have options. Take action now. Grow your own food, learn how to preserve it, and educate yourself about natural alternatives in your environment. The sooner you prepare, the less you'll have to worry when the cracks in the system finally break wide open.